Blessings, everyone, and welcome. In this episode, I want to talk to you about the energy drainage, or basically, how do we drain our energy and where do we drain and we leak our own energy. I personally noticed not only around the internet, but also in particular circles of people, a lot of conversations, kind of like a trend, a lot of conversation going on around how to protect my energy, what do I do to protect my energy, or how to protect myself from people that are draining my energy, and things like that. It all might be true, but if to think a little bit deeper around this topic, unless we actually are willing to give our energy to somebody, or we have maybe a particular predisposition or belief system that is giving our energy away, putting us in a victimized position in a way, then no one actually can take this energy out of us. So I want to bring some awareness around particularly very simple things that we might be doing on a day-to-day basis that is draining our energy really a lot, and that keeps us in a state of powerlessness at the end of the day, and also keeps us feeling drained. Number one, it's whenever we are in a state of regret, whenever we are getting stuck in those regrets. So what happens when we getting stuck in regrets? First of all, of course, we cannot be in the present moment. And there is no way we can move forward in life, even in our thinking, because we are constantly stuck in those regrets. We are constantly stuck in that past experience, and that past drama, past choice that we made. There might be a big drama, of course, but being constantly stuck in that drama does not serve us any good. And you know the saying, where attention goes, the energy flows. So we give all of our focus and all of our attention into that past drama that we regret about. And of course, we are just draining and giving all of our energy, all of our life force into that past drama and trauma. What we can do about it, we cannot physically go back in the past and change it completely. But what we can actually do, and that would be placing us in a more empowering position with this perspective, what we can do, we can change our relationship to that past. We can change our relationship to that whatever we regret about. And how do we do it? If, for example, you think that there was some kind of mistake, you can take your lessons, learn your lesson from that mistake, allow yourself to just simply learn that lesson and move on in life. There might be some maybe different choice. Maybe you regret you should have been chosen a different opportunity. Think about it, that whatever you chose brought you to where you are right now. It brought you to this place, to those circumstances. Maybe it brought you really amazing people that you met along the way. Maybe it made you a better person. It obviously made you a better person in some ways, since you went through particular circumstances. So whatever it gave you, just look at it this way, like ask yourself a question: what kind of blessing that choice that I made, that now I regret, brought to me? Whatever choice you didn't make, maybe that's never supposed to work out for you. Maybe that was just not your path and not your way. Just accept this fact and learn whatever you can and move on from that path. Stop putting yourself and all your attention and focus into that past drama and trauma. Optionally, of course, you can always do the energy break, or like cutting cords with your past, just so for you and for your subconscious mind, it can work and benefit you a lot by just giving to your subconscious mind that it's gone, that chapter has finished, and now I'm on a new chapter in my life. So another way how we are also draining and leaking our energy is whenever we are getting stuck and we are like putting ourselves into that vortex of negative emotions, especially emotions like, or constantly feeling ourselves, feeling resentments, resentments towards another person, or resentments towards particular places or things or circumstances, maybe work, even your colleagues, or resenting ourselves. Whenever we experience that heavy, really heavy emotion, one of the heaviest emotions, we give all that energy away. Plus, on top of that, whatever where we focus, what we feel, what we experience, of course, that's how we are also subconsciously, we create and we manifest our reality to match that vibration. And the same goes towards all type of low vibrational, low vibratory emotions and feelings that we might be experiencing, especially such feelings like shame or guilt, rejection, hatred. All of those are also from the same category. For resentment, what you can do the forgiveness exercise. You can forgive another person if you don't feel like you are ready to forgive with your heart. You can, or even to yourself, you can start practicing forgiveness on a daily basis. And at some point, it will just hit you. And not only mentally you will be able to forgive, but you will be able to forgive from your heart. Learn whatever you're supposed to learn from that resentment and starts moving on. Same goes for like that shame or guilt emotions and feelings. Start investigating, explore what makes you feel that emotion. Why do you feel those emotions? Maybe you was manipulated when you was a child. Maybe there is some trauma stored. Maybe something is just triggering you. What is that shadow side that you have, and start working on it. And for sure, once you start doing some actions, it will be 100% better than if you do not do any action at all. Another way how also we are draining our energy and we allow that energy drainage to happen is when we are getting stuck in doubts. So doubts or indecisiveness, when we cannot make a decision, when we cannot make that choice and move in one or another direction, we are getting stuck in this type of kind of like limbo with a lot of uncertainty. It's like the life keeps on going on and you're just stuck in between, in that you doubt. Whenever you are doubting, if you doubt something, you intuitively feel, should I do it or I should not do it? And then respond according to your inner voice, because your heart would never lie. And any choice, be it good or bad choice, would certainly be better than hanging out in those doubts. What I personally find to be really helpful, and what I always do whenever I face a situation of doubt, whenever I am personally in doubt, what I do, I have several choices, or like I have at least 2 choices to make. So sometimes my mind says to me like, oh, I should be doing this choice, but my heart doesn't really feel like doing it. So I'm kind of like in a doubt, should I do it? Should I not do it? I'm not so sure. Like logically, it all seems to be fine and working perfectly well. That's how I'm supposed to be acting. But deep inside, my inner voice, my intuition tells me like, oh, Anna, just hold on, and I wouldn't be so risky. I wouldn't be doing that particular choice because the other one, whatever, even if logically sometimes it's not matching, but in my heart I feel like I should be doing it. So what I do in this situation, instead of keeping myself in continuous doubt, I sit, I meditate, I do my practice. You can have your personal practice. You can go and walk, you can do meditation, you can listen to music, you can do whatever that may help you. And then ask a question. I'm asking myself a question. Okay, now if I were to do this choice, what do I feel to do? Which choice do I feel doing? Not what I think doing, but what I feel doing. And that always helps me. Or I may ask myself a question, okay, if I do this choice, would I later regret about it? Or if I do not do this choice, if I do not do this action, in the future, 5 years later, 1 year later, 10 years later, would I regret about it? If I would regret about not doing something, I would for sure do it. I will do it just so in the future I will not be hanging out in those regrets or getting stuck with the regrets and draining my energy constantly. So another way how also we are draining our energy is by constantly comparing ourselves with somebody else. Comparing ourselves, by doing this constantly in our mind, and quite often we do it. Some people just like they start comparing, they see it, they admire a person like, wow, so that is another opportunity for me. Maybe I can do something similar, or I also can do it. Sometimes it inspires people. For me, it now inspires me whenever I see someone and I really admire. I see it as an opportunity. I see it always as an inspiration, as an admiration, in a healthy and good sense of it. But before, it was a different story. So whenever we are comparing ourselves, what happens? We leave ourselves literally disempowered. We are like killing our true and our authentic identity. We are killing this fact of who we truly are by constantly comparing, because it gives us desire. Oh, I have to be like somebody else, like that person, or I should have been like that person. And there is like a note of regret. There might be also layering on top of it some resentments. There might be jealousy. There might be like internal, not comparison, internal, how to say it? There might be also, if I remember the word, I will tell. A competition. So it might be feeling to us like that is a competition. We have to compete, and whenever you are competing, it's like never-ending competition, because you compete with the ghost, with that imaginary person, even though that person exists. But in reality, you are not that person. You cannot become that person and live through all the DNA, whatever beliefs, whatever feeling that person has. You are who you are, and instead of comparing yourself, you can just accept yourself for who you are. You can compare yourself only if you are comparing yourself with yourself, who you were like 5 years ago, who you were 2 years ago, even yesterday, and see your own personal progression. How much better you are. What is your progression? That is, your only competition should be with yourself, not with somebody else, not with that imaginary ghost, because that competition will never ever end. And on top, I would also suggest to work with that comparison. What I personally did when I had that comparison, I started to investigate. When did it happen? What was happening? What was that drama around comparison? Why my subconscious mind stuck with that comparison idea? And while investigating, I started seeing the picture from a different point of view. That maybe when my mom or like my dad, somebody was, when you was a kid, comparing you to somebody else, even your teacher was comparing you to another student, maybe it's not because that teacher did not like you or thought that you are not good enough. Maybe even if the teacher thought, which is a very small chance of it, even if the teacher thought about it, it's none of your concern what teacher thinks or like the parent thinks. So whenever that comparison was happening, maybe it happened for you to motivate you in some ways, which of course from your perspective you took it differently. But investigating and working and releasing that comparison energy would serve you a really great deal. It will help you to move on in life. It will also help you to preserve your energy, because all that lost energy that you are losing on that never-ending comparison game, you can use it for your own benefit. You can use it to explore your potentiality, your talents, your gifts, your unique gifts, your unique talent, your unique perspective on things. And that energy, if used correctly instead of wasted on that comparison game, can lift you up way higher than you can possibly think by doing that comparison. And another thing that I personally find to be really deadful for draining, that drains our energy a lot, really terrible for our energy, that whenever we are forcing ourselves to do certain things, whenever we are doing something through force. And what I mean by it, it's not like that you have a certain idea in mind. For example, you have a particular goal. You have a goal to become healthier. You have a goal to become more joyful and happy in life. And then you know that you need to change particular habits, and then you start working on new habits. And then you know that you have to do certain actions for a certain number of days, for certain periods, because you have a goal. You already know what will happen. And sometimes it's not comfortable to change our beliefs. It's sometimes not comfortable to change our habits. But we know we have to do it a little step at a time, and that will bring us to our goal. So that is a healthy way of using this energy of like, I have to do it, because you know there is a bigger goal behind it. But what I mean by forcing ourselves to do something, that we are constantly, for example, forcing ourselves to talk or to communicate to people that for whatever reason we do not feel aligned with, we do not like, we feel very antagonistic, but we are still forcing ourselves to be nice, forcing ourselves to talk and to communicate and get in a close contact with those people, even though it's very unpleasant for us. So in that way, we are just lying to ourselves. We are literally crossing, we allow other people to cross our personal boundaries. We do not respect ourselves. We do not say yes to ourselves. So we are not basically prioritizing ourselves. And when we do it from that energy, it will not play well for us. It will always bring us some kind of situation where other people will hurt us, will disrespect us, cross our boundaries and things like that. Or it might be that you hate doing certain things. For example, you hate cleaning, you hate cooking, you hate, I don't know, you hate going to your current work or doing something, and you really, really hate it, and you keep on forcing yourself like, I have to do it, I have to do it, and you feel, and you do it with a big duty, with a big obligation. Of course, somewhere, if to invest, we take the topic to investigate, somewhere there will be some element of kind of like a glory, to put that badge on your shoulders, like to have this glorified medal, like I did it anyway, like I'm so cool. But in reality, forcing yourself, again, it is neglecting yourself. It is neglecting your personal needs and your personal desires. It's certainly not a self-love. It's not the act of loving yourself. So in these terms, whenever we don't like something to do, whenever we are forcing ourselves, that is what I mean by doing something through that force, because that creates a lot of resistance. Whenever it creates a lot of resistance, on top it starts layering up a lot of anger, frustration, stress. There might be a lot of resentments, regret, etc. You just name it. All of this spectrum of really low vibratory feelings and emotions will be layering up on top whenever we do those things, those actions through force. And the bigger resistance is, the bigger emotional pain is as well. So, and when I talk about this, I'm not talking because I read it in some book. Obviously, I was reading a lot of those stuff at some point, but I personally lived through it. And also quite recently, just on a very recent example, I want to share it with you. So we are traveling a lot this year, and for us to move from one country to another country, stay a little bit here, a little bit there, enjoy ourselves, doing like constantly missing the school for kids is inconvenient. So we thought about it, and we thought, okay, we will do like online education, and that is awesome. We can do it from any point in the world, from any country, from any city, and it's very flexible program. This is amazing. We have the teacher support. We can change the time zone. We can change location. It's awesome. I was so excited about it, to be honest. I thought like, cool, now we have a chance to see different locations, to travel, to explore new places, to have a lot of fun, and at the same time we can just very flexibly do our schooling, do whatever we need to do without much depending on like time frames, like, oh, at this time we have to be there, or like we have to drive somewhere. So that was a really, really awesome idea, and I was so excited. When the time came to execute it, so that's when I realized that I started to not just dislike it, I was forcing myself to do it. I really started to hate it. I was so stressed. Kids were also so stressed. And I know consciously, I know in my mind there is something wrong. It should not be this way. It's not something I was expecting or thinking about it. So it took me some time to be stuck in that vortex of self-pity for, let's say, a couple of weeks, until I finally got myself ready. I did the inner work, and I realized that it's not that I'm forced. It's not much of even that. There is obviously some past traumas that I was avoiding, I was not resolving, but mainly this situation was triggering a lot of things within me, a lot of traumas, a lot of past experiences, a lot of feelings and emotions that were not released or worked through. So I started to trigger a lot of shadows within me. It started to bring those shadows on the surface. Not because I am that bad. I didn't have chance to work through those shadows. I didn't even know I could be like sometimes that nasty, to be honest. But instead of complaining, and I did my complaints already, instead of like constantly being stuck in that vortex, I started to change my relationship, because I cannot change it. So if you cannot change those circumstances, you start changing your relationship. And instead of seeing it as something that is draining my energy, I started to see it really as a blessing. That is a blessing that brings all of that shadows that I still have, and I'm not even aware of it. It started to bring it all on the surface. So now I have a chance to actually work with those shadows. I have a chance to release particular dramas, particular traumas and stuck emotions. I have chance to improve myself and to get better. So now I see this as a blessing. And once I saw it, once I realized it, and I saw the truth and the reality of whatever is happening and going on, it just hit me immediately. Now everything, like all of a sudden, started to switch. I found some time. I started to manage my time better. I started to make it more fun. We started to enjoy. We are not like forced to do it. And it just kind of makes it into a beautiful dance. So what I want to say about it is, if you cannot change that circumstance and that you cannot avoid, for example, a person, you cannot avoid doing something, you cannot basically stop doing it. You cannot delegate it to someone else. And you really feel like being triggered a lot about that. You really feel a lot of resistance and a lot of negativity, like that kind of obligation, I have to do it, but you really, really hate it. Then you start changing your relationship to it. You start working on it, why it's happening, what does it trigger within you, what can you learn through that experience, what is it teaching you, what kind of virtues or qualities does it teach you, what is the blessing of having it in your life. Another way, if you can change, that is great. If you can stop talking to that person, you stop talking to that person. You can stop doing certain things, you can start changing a job, you can start delegating particular jobs to other people, you can hire a help. That's what you can do instead of forcing yourself. The worst part is when you keep yourself in that vortex of forcing yourself through that resistance. That's what will drain your energy. So instead of doing that, you either delegate it, say no to it, or you change your relationship. You start working with it and look at it from the perspective of it being your blessing. What can you do now about it? And once you accept it, once you accept the fact that you have this in your life, once it opens the gate for you to see it from different perspective. Once you see it from different perspective, you see it as a blessing, it immediately opens up a lot of solutions for you, a lot of creative solutions, a lot of other possibilities and opportunities that you might see that that was always there, but you, because of being stuck in particular direction, you was just not able to see or perceive those opportunities. So I hope, guys, this all makes sense to you. And on this note, I wish you all a wonderful and a blissful day. And if you have your solutions on how you deal with certain situations, what you find to be draining, you can always pop it up in the comment section, and I would love to read it. Have a beautiful and a blissful day.